Good morning from High Easter in Essex. I'm out here to do the High Easter 10k, a pretty fast, mostly flat, well I suppose slightly undulating 10k on country roads out here in Essex. Usually attracts a pretty strong field, so I hope I can get out after today, try and run a reasonably quick time. I'm not in like top 5k, 10k kind of shape, I'm not in top anything shape right now, but hoping to see where the fitness is at before starting a build now, probably towards the Loch Ness Marathon. Looks like the next big target for me. As always, lots of gear on test today. The big thing is the Brooks Hyperion Elite 5. New complex racing shoe. I've had quite a few new ones coming out lately. I've really enjoyed my first couple of training runs in the shoe, so keen to put it to test with a all-out effort here at the race day. It's got a lot of similarities with the Hyperion Elite 4 PB, but slightly reshaped midsole, new geometry, I think very slightly lighter, using that DNA Gold PB foam that Brooks has brought to its range now and improved a whole load of shoes, and definitely improved its racing shoes compared to what we used to get from the brand. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how it feels with an all-out effort today. Also going to be testing out a couple of watches, the new Garmin's, the Garmin Forerunner 570 and the Garmin Forerunner 970. So I won't be testing heart rate on both watches because I'll be using the HRM 600 with the Forerunner 970 to get the running economy stats, like step, slow rate, that kind of thing during the race, to see what those look like in an actual race. Like, I've worn this heart rate monitor to get those stats for a few hard training runs, and I've got my running economy measurement on the watch and everything now, but it'd be interesting to see what it looks like in a race where I expect probably to struggle a little bit in the second half of the day. And it'd be interesting to obviously test the heart rate on the 570 and test the GPS on both. It's a pretty clear open course in the countryside, so I'm expecting pretty accurate results. In general, throughout training, I've been wearing both of these watches for a couple of weeks now, and the 570 tends to come up a little bit longer than the 970 in almost every run. So they're both in multi-band mode today, so we'll see how they do. We'll have a look at the battery stats afterwards as well. Other than that, nothing too notable on test today. Using the Seisky Pace Combat Half Tights, big fan of those. I've got the Sun God 42 glasses on because it is a surprisingly sunny day out here in Essex after a few days of rain. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how it feels and running hard. So all done now, got my race t-shirt on. You get a race t-shirt here, it's a medal. Pretty solid day out there. I think I was 5th, around 33.20, something like that. So nowhere near kind of PB shape for 10k as I expected, but actually held on better than I thought on what was quite a windy day actually. The course loops round and we had the wind in our face for most of kind of the back straight. The kind of 5k in the middle of the race was mostly into the wind. Like I said, it's pretty undulating, pretty flat course, sorry, but with a few undulations. Like there's a sharpish hill from about 8.5k up to the 9k marker, and after that you're okay, but I knew that was coming. Raced it pretty well. I was in a group for a couple of k, then they dropped off and I spent the next kind of 7k hauling in one guy. We should have just run together really, but ended up hauling him in and picked up 5th with the first group of 4 way ahead. So yeah, pretty pleased with that time actually, given the state I'm in at the moment, the overall fitness, and I think that's held on to pretty solid time. Running mostly by myself out in the countryside here. Shoes are really good, really like the feel of them today, the Hyperion Elite 5 from Brooks. They felt very light and poppy, and I felt like I was in quite a nice rhythm with them throughout. I felt like I could speed up when I needed to, like coming up that hill near the end, I was trying to push to try and get a gap and hold on to the place I just gained, and yeah, they felt really good. Like, I do think they've got a bit more bounce to them than the Hyperion Elite 4 PB. That's a little bit softer maybe at the hill, the way I run, kind of then roll through and you get a little bit more pop, but quite a similar shoe to that. Fairly similar actually, I think, almost to the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3 as well, but again, maybe a bit softer, a little bit bouncier, and they were nice and comfortable today. So yeah, tick for them. I think they're a good shoe. I'm not sure they're one that are necessarily going to blow everyone's socks off and go to like the top of the carbon shoe rankings. I think there's a lot of really good shoes coming out at the moment, and a lot of shoes that are really good that have been around for a while, so it is quite hard to stand out, but they definitely are, I think Brooks' best shoe, and I enjoyed running in them today. Watches are pretty good. I think the markers were slightly short for most of the race, so like as in they were beeping after the marker. You don't always get that. Obviously here on a course like this, running by myself, I was able to run pretty tight lines around the corners, so I was pretty close probably to running the official distance, and then exactly I was bang on the official distance on the 570 crossing the finish line, and then the 970 I think it was 9.98, so actually similar to what's been in training. The 570 reads a little bit longer, but actually I guess it was over 10k. I think it was about 10.2, so they're probably very similar overall results. The GPS couldn't really be faulted throughout the race. I'll have a look at the heart rate when I get back. I'll have a look at the GPS track and dive into the step slow rate data from the Forerunner 970 to see what that looks like. It's going to be interesting to see how that went in the race. So I didn't actually slow down that much. I think probably my worst Ks were kind of 4, 5, 6, something like that. There was a little bit of uphill, we were into the wind, and then there was a little bit downhill, and I was trying to chase a guy down, so I picked up a bit of speed and then kind of finished reasonably okay. The last K wasn't very good actually. I was quite tired after coming up the hill, but yeah, all round pretty pleased with that race. It is a really well organised event. Some fast times out there today, like a couple of people I know PB'd well, even despite the wind. Like I think if you've got in a group, you can definitely run pretty quick here, even with, you know, conditions not being ideal as they weren't today. I think last year the conditions were better when I ran, I think, a little bit quicker, and I was in a group the whole way. But yeah, certainly really enjoyable, and all the kit I tested I think performed pretty well. Comfortable Safety tights, as I mentioned, which I've used quite a lot now. The Sun God 42 sunglasses stayed rigidly in place, despite the fact for once I didn't wear a hat or a headband, which I normally do because I really hate sweat dripping down my forehead during races. But I thought with the wind it would get blown off, but no, I just felt sweaty the whole way, and that wound me up a little bit. But the glasses, yeah, rock solid, really don't move around at all. They're really good. Yeah, sports sunglasses, as you'd expect from Sun God with their running dedicated glasses. So yeah, gonna go home, have a bit more of a look at the data. But yeah, certainly a really enjoyable day out here at the High Easter race, but definitely worth checking out if you are in the Essex area. So back home now, and a chance to look a bit more at the data from the watches and think a bit more about the event, which was really good. It was put on by Nice Work. It's a pretty good value run. Like I said in the video, I wouldn't hesitate to check it out if you're looking for a pretty fast 10K on, you know, mostly flat, slightly undulating roads with one kind of sharp hill towards the back end of the race. Looking at the kit tested, yeah, just don't have too much more to say about the Brooks Hyperion Elite. We're going to get to our review fairly soon, I think, but I think this is, you know, a really good carbon plate running shoe, nice and light, really poppy, felt really good throughout the run today, and just Brooks has really improved drastically with their last couple of models compared to the previous ones, purely on the basis that this PIBA foam, you know, is really good, nice and springy. It's not particularly unstable, despite, you know, the cutout you have here. Didn't notice anything like that. It's pretty bouncy, just well balanced all round. Pretty expensive though, and how it compares to the market at large will obviously be pretty telling. We'll get more into that in our full review. I don't think this is a racer that's going to blow everyone away and be a must buy or really change the face of carbon plate racing shoes, but certainly a very competitive one. Like, it's hard to compare race results directly, but you know, I have done, you know, a fair few 10Ks, and the kind of shape I'm in, I'd expect to be around kind of 33.20, which is where I was today. This is in line with performances in shoes like the Alpha Fly 3 and at similar levels of fitness. I think last year I ran that race about 25 seconds quicker in the Metaspeed Sky Paris, but the wind was with us for the backstretch of that race, so, you know, it was much friendlier conditions, and I was with the group the whole way, so all round had a, you know, a better run out, and I was in slightly, I think, fitter 10K shape. So yeah, all round just really impressed with it as a shoe. I do think it's really good. Look forward to doing a few more runs in it before our full review. Then we come to the watches. So GPS distance, you know, it's very close on both of them. I've got 9.98 on the Forerunner 970 and then 10.02 on the 570. So you want to be over the distance because, you know, it's unlikely I ran less than 10K on an official course like that. But given that it was a very open course out in the countryside, I was running by myself, I was able to take tight turns and, you know, hit very close to the racing line. So I think 10.02 is, you know, pretty good and probably about right. And so the 570 did very well on that front, I would say. Looking at the GPS tracks, they're pretty much identical across the course of the race, though. It's not really any difference between them. Again, as you'd expect, pretty open conditions, multi-band watches. You expect very accurate results, and I think you got that today. And then on the heart rate, obviously the 970 was linked to a chest strap, but the 570 was pretty impressive in terms of being in line with that for most of the way. There was one random dip in heart rate, which obviously wasn't correct around the middle of the race, and then there was also, it took a while to get up to the correct heart rate at the start of 10K, which I think is pretty fair and common for optical heart rate monitors. Like, you go out the gates in a 10K or a 5K, you know, you're really going like the clappers, your heart rate really jumps up quickly, and it takes maybe a minute for the optical heart rate to adjust, but overall very much in line with the readings from a chest strap. Then what was it? I was wearing the chest strap on the Forerunner 970 primarily to have a look at the extra data you get from it with, you know, in terms of running dynamics. So you are getting stuff like step slow rate, which feeds into running economy, and step slow rate percentage. So basically this is how much you slow down with each step. So as you go through your landing phase and then push on again, how much speed have you lost? And you want a lower amount of speed lost, because that means you have to put less effort into regaining that speed with your stride. So I think step speed loss percentage is probably a better indicator, because kind of the more speed you have, maybe the more you're losing, you know, but as a percentage you might not be losing as much, if that makes any kind of sense. So looking at my stats throughout the run in terms of all kinds of running technique stats, pretty typical stuff in terms of my cadence getting a little bit higher towards the end of the race. So I start to really shuffle a bit towards the end, and, you know, my stride length goes down. I'm not taking such long kind of flowing rhythmic strides and just starting to struggle a little bit, and that affects things like vertical oscillation as well. And then my step speed loss seemed to go up throughout the race, again as you'd expect, not running quite so well towards the back half of a race. It doesn't look like a drastic change to me, like I'm still getting to grips with this stat myself and whether it will actually be useful, but it was quite interesting to see it in a race environment. You see that, you know, just losing a little bit more speed in the stride further on. There was also a sharp downhill and uphill, and that affects that stat as well. But that was quite late in the race, but overall, yeah, quite interesting to see that stay laid out. And I also do really like the running tolerance on the Garmin Forerunner 970. So this is basically, the idea is it shows how many miles or kilometers you're equipped to run that week in terms of your fitness and training history. So the idea is you don't increase too much at once and go beyond what your body can tolerate, but it's pretty standard, very simple stuff with running. Like if you've run 25 miles one week, don't suddenly run 50 miles the next week, progress it gradually, because then your body can handle it pretty well. But what I like about running tolerance is it gives you an estimated load, and it's not just the actual distance you've run. So for example, the race today was a load of 15 kilometers, even though it was only a 10k race, because I was running hard the whole time. Whereas if I go and do an easy 16k, it'll be about 16k in terms of actual load. So I think that does just help you to think about a bit more the intensity of your runs. And the fact is, like, I've never been a very high mileage runner, but I do a lot of intensity stuff during marathon training. Like I'm not doing my 80-20 or anything like that. I'm often doing a fair bit of speed work and that kind of thing, and it just helps you picture the, I guess, distance value of those harder runs. So if you are going and doing a hard session, you might only do 15k of volume in total, but actually the impact on your body might be more like 20k. And although that's not really going to be scientifically mapped exactly, I think it's just a good way of showing the load on your body in a slightly different way, and gives you an idea of how not to push it by doing not just too much running, but almost too much fast running. So yeah, I do like the little stat. We'll talk again more about it in our full review, but I have liked seeing that on the Forerunner 970, and these new running economy and all those kind of things stats are interesting as well. And today was my first race using that stat, so it was interesting to see those how those were affected by step slow rate throughout the course of the race. Anyway, that is all I have to say about the High East 10k and how it went today. I did really enjoy the race. Like I say, it was a good hit out for me. You're going to start pushing again quite soon. I've got a 5-mile race in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to go pretty hard out, hopefully be in slightly better shape, and then start a bit more of a marathon build and a half marathon build of a couple of events in September I'm looking forward to.